Peter Cody is the Executive Director of WIF, and our own Dana Poisson sat down to learn more in this edition of 5 Minutes With.
Hi, I'm Dana Poisson, and here with me today is the Executive Director of Windsor International Film Festival, Peter Cody. For those people who don't know what WIF is, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Certainly, Dana. WIF, the Windsor International Film Festival, is a not-for-profit organization that I would say basically is committed to enriching the film culture of Windsor and Essex County. And when I use the term film culture, I use that broad term to include local filmmakers, student filmmakers, and I include the chance we have to bring to Windsor and Essex County audiences films that we consider valuable films that should be seen, that would not normally be seen in our local public theaters here in Windsor and Essex County. So that's pretty well our mandate, to enrich the cultural life of this area.
So you're the Executive Director. How did you get this position?
Well, I've been with this organization from the very beginning. At the very beginning, I was what you would call the man that handles print traffic. And what that really means, it sounds wonderful, but what it means is keeping track of all the films that would arrive and picking them up at the bus station, making sure they get to the projectionist on time and returning them. It's a demanding job. But in this day and age, things are changing, because when we first started 8 years ago, every single film was on 35 millimeter, which would arrive in 2 heavy metal canisters. Today, with the changes, with the move towards digital, many, if not most of our films this year are in DVD, Blu-ray form, or something called DCP. Not quite as heavy to handle.
So where did you find your love for film and the arts?
Well, I've been involved in acting myself for the last 15 years here in Windsor and in Detroit. And I've always had a love of film, always. When I was a kid in Toronto, we lived a block from the local theater. And I was in a family with 6 brothers and sisters. On Saturdays, to get me out of their hair, they would give me 25 cents to go to the theater, and I'd spend my Saturdays, every Saturday of my life, in the local theater.
So how would you compare Windsor's Film Festival to others like it?
Well, we're certainly not the size of TIFF, but there's something unique about this festival. And that is the partnerships that we have with various educational institutions in this area. No other festival has a link with, in our case, the college, St.Clair College, or with the university, in our case, the University of Windsor, or with, in our case this year, the Greater Essex County District School Board. We work very closely with the educational institutions. What we're doing right now, you and I, is part of our commitment. I believe that we have to provide students at the colleges and universities with real life experience. What you're going through right now, this is a real life experience. We want to use this festival. We want to we want to take advantage of the fact that there are people like you at the college involved in courses like the ones you are, and we want to be able to part of giving you a real life experience. That's unique. Mm-hmm. And it's a serious commitment that has been growing each year. It's very important. We owe that to you and thus to our community. And it's happening. I love it.
So it's the 8th year of WIF. How has the festival progressed since the past years?
You know, this year, I can just feel the momentum. It's become something that is pushing itself. It's bigger than me, bigger than any one of us board members, any one of the volunteers. It's bigger and it's moving, it's growing. It's now become an event here in the city that has to happen. And that's how it's growing.
So with that, how are the arts in Windsor growing?
Well, generally speaking, oh my gosh, the arts in Windsor, they are, I will speak for, film arts. And I can say that a great example of it is we have our 48-hour Flick Fest. St.Clair College was a sponsor of that event. We had the teams meet at the St.Clair Center for the Arts, and we had 25 teams meet there on Friday, October the 19th. 25 teams of young people that were going to be making a film that weekend. Well, that's a heck of a growth over the last 2 or 3 years. And of those 25 teams, actually 22 were able to hand in a finished product. That's that buzz out there. That's an indication of the strength of the arts community. And we had students from high school, college, and university, and regular filmmakers in the city participating in that event. So if that's any indication, the arts are alive and well.
I'm Dana Poisson, and we've just spent 5 minutes with Peter Cody, the Executive Director of Windsor International Film Festival.
Okay, sports fans, baseball and hockey are the topics of this week's Sports Talk.
Thanks, Jill. Welcome to another edition of Mediaplex Sports Talk. I'm Kenton Wolf.
And I'm Rob Benyon.
So, Rob, the World Series is over. What went wrong?
You know what? The bats didn't show up all series. Cabrera was 3 for 14. Fielder was 1, I believe, 1 hit in the entire series. It was a problem they saw all season long where the bats just didn't show up for weeks at a time, and it flared up at the worst possible time.
As bad as the bats were, the Justin Verlander, the star pitcher, it's got to be demoralizing for the boys to see him get let up like that.
Definitely. That was a tough game to watch for even a casual baseball fan. I mean, everyone knows Justin Verlander is the best pitcher in baseball, and giving up 5 runs in 4 innings, that had to hurt the Tigers' mentality going forward. Even though they got strong pitching contributions from their starters the rest of the way, the bats couldn't pick up the slack.
Yeah, with baseball officially over now, we would have normally switched over to the NHL. We can't do that, can we, Rob?
No hockey this year, Kenton. Doesn't look good. The latest proposal from the NHL has been pulled off the table, and it doesn't look like we're going to have hockey this year.
Yeah, what it looks like is that the Winter Classic is going to be canceled any day now, which would officially mark the cancellation of the NHL.
I would have to agree. If the Winter Classic goes, the season goes. And to be honest, I don't think we're going to have hockey for quite a while. I wouldn't be surprised if this stretches into next year.
Yeah, which would be really bad to see. I mean, the Columbus All-Star Game as well being canceled. I mean, these are a lot of high-profile events where non-traditional hockey fans get to see some exposure to the NHL.
You know what? And it's bad for a city like Windsor, too, because with the Winter Classic being held in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Windsor was going to see an economic boom from people coming over to stay in Windsor and partake in the festivities.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Rob Benyon.
And I'm Kenton Wolf.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Mediaplex Sports Talk.
Many say the Beatles are the most popular music group in history, and Rob Benyon explains how fans gather at the Manchester to pay tribute.
The Manchester, located at the intersection of Maiden Lane and Willette Avenue, is a UK pub with a Canadian twist, with a weekly lineup featuring open mic nights, live bands, karaoke, and trivia. The Manchester was looking to bolster their Sunday morning crowd, and with that came the birth of an idea, a Beatles-themed brunch. Jamie Greer is the manager at the Manchester and has worked there since the bar opened in 2009. The Beatles-themed brunch was his idea.
Something new to do on Sundays, and we noticed that over the past few years there's been a real shortage of breakfast buffets, breakfast brunch style things, especially in the downtown core.
But why the Beatles?
The Beatles are probably the most universally recognized band in history. I mean, they're the biggest selling, and they cross such a demographic of people from 19 to 90, well, from 4 years old to 90 almost.
Greer said the Manchester's first Beatles brunch, held on October 14th, was well attended. Maria Chapa said the idea was an interesting one.
When I saw this in the paper, I was kind of like, that intrigues me, because it was just a fabulous experience. You know, you combine the music and visual, and this, I'm like, music and food, that sounds good.
Brad Labonte, 23, has worked at the Manchester for 2 years.
I love this idea. It's something to get younger people in here during the morning and get the older crowd that are up early Sunday morning and that. So that adds more talent to the bar and it gets more people in here.
Whether you've been a fan of the Beatles since Love Me Do, or you just heard about John, Paul, George, and Ringo, the Manchester will be providing brunch every Sunday, 11 to 2. Reporting for Mediaplex News Now, I'm Rob Benyon.
Windsor Light Opera is taking on the Monty Python classic Spamalot. Erin Christie tells us more.
For more than 60 years, the Windsor Light Music Theatre Ensemble has entertained local audiences with professional quality shows, tackling everything from ragtime to the Scarlet Pimpernel to the Wizard of Oz. And now they're ready to take on one of Broadway's most challenging productions.
England.
Spamalot will be reaching the Chrysler Theatre after nearly 6 months of exhausting rehearsals. Director John Watley says, despite the difficulties that come with a high-energy production like Spamalot, being able to bring it to the Rose City has been well worth it.
It was something that was on our bucket list to do because it's a very popular show. It ran for a number of years on Broadway, and as I said, people were very excited about the production, so it was a no-brainer for us.
Based on the legendary 1974 film, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Spamalot tells the tale of King Arthur, played by actor Ryan Turgeon.
He's a kind of quirky, absurd type king with his horse of coconuts.
Will you ask him, master?
Turgeon says the writing has stood the test of time.
I'm a high school teacher, so I'm shocked at how many students know the film still from the late 70s. Because the humor is a lot like the absurdity and nihilistic humor that Family Guy and South Park still use today.
Spamalot will take the stage of the Chrysler Theater starting November 9th. For Mediaplex News Now, I'm Erin Christie.
Veronique Mandel is the coordinator of the journalism program, and she's here live with Kenton Wolf.
Thanks, Jill. I'm here with Veronique Mandel, the program coordinator for St.Clair College Journalism. So, Vero, tell me a little bit about the first live broadcast here.
I think this is tremendously important for the students, and it's a milestone in the program because it's something that we've talked about, particularly since we moved into the Newsplex, and something that I know that David Harrison and our Newsplex director, Larry Forsyth, have been working towards. And so we're so proud of the news team that they, in 8 weeks, they've been able to bring their skills to a level where we could actually go live. So, and this is really important because when they get out in the real world, they're going to at least have this experience for their portfolios.
And what future live broadcasts are you looking forward to?
Well, I think what we're going to see continue to develop is more and more segments in the show that's live. So, things like adding sports live and all the other components that you see on regular television shows. But, this is also a young journalist program, so you never know what our directors have up their sleeves.
Any predictions for this year's Mediaplex Headline Challenge?
Oh my goodness. I think that both the first and second years are going to be working really hard because, last year both wanted to win so badly, and I think the losing side is going to look at that and say, well, we need to sort of beef up our skills and our knowledge.
I understand you're also a writer too.
I am a writer. And you're probably wanting to know about my latest endeavor. My book was released just a couple of months ago, and it's called The Pink Hat. It's my first fiction. And I think, in talking about that with the journalism students, I think what's important is to understand that you can do really sort of good journalism. You can write news stories and feature stories, and all of that skill leads you to write fiction. I think that's what all journalists have at heart, is to find a novel. I think we've all got a novel in us.
All right, and back to the desk with Jill Thompson.
Thank you for tuning in to our very first live newscast. I'm Jill Thompson for Mediaplex News Now.
Mediaplex News Now is a production of the St.Clair College Journalism Program.